Okay, I'm Brian Chimay, and I'm working with realvitality.org. I'm a homeopath for about 10 years now, and I learned homeoprophylaxis first in 2020, and so I've been practicing homeoprophylaxis for 4 years. Homeoprophylaxis, using homeopathically prepared remedies to safely educate the immune system. So I'm going to go over these terms here, homeopathically prepared remedies, okay? So first thing we need to talk about is, what is homeopathy? Homeopathy, you guys may have some idea, they're these little pellets, so you put them under your tongue. It was started over 200 years ago in 1795 by this guy, Samuel Hahnemann. This is a statue that's in Washington, D.C., and he's the only medical doctor to be honored by the United States government because of the miraculous success that homeopathy was bestowing on the world. Homeopathy started in 1795. And what it was Dr. Hahnemann was a doctor. He was German. He had a big family, but he was disgusted with the practice of medicine, which maybe, some people might say is no different than today. Mm-hmm. But he was disgusted because, what they were doing were bloodletting, putting caustics in your mouth, like basically trying to blister your mouth to get the fevers out. Like imagine having like a horrible fever or like a flu and you feel horrible and you're all feverish and they're like, well, we're gonna cause all these blisters in your mouth in order to. So now you got all these horrible blisters in your mouth because they think that's gonna let the fever out. So he was like, this is barbaric and I won't practice this way. So what he did to earn a living was, he was a brilliant man and he knew 7 languages. So he would take historic medical texts from Greek, Arabic, and translate them into the modern languages of German and English, stuff like that. And so he was familiar with the concept of Hippocrates, which was the father of, medicine in Greek times, what people call him the father of medicine. And one of his concepts was like cures like. And that's actually what homeopathy stands for. Basically, the number one law of homeopathy is the law of similars. So, like treats like cures like. So maybe the most famous remedy, arnica, which is a plant remedy, and it's made, it's for bruising. And, if you fall down, you get a boo-boo, you break something, or you have to have surgery, you have to have something traumatic happen to your body, arnica is going to be the thing to go. If you take arnica and a mega dose of it, and you poison yourself with it, you're going to feel bruised all over and broken and traumatized. Mm. So that's why it cures that. And how he discovered that was, back in his day, there was, an antidote, or a remedy for malaria, and it's quinine. It comes from, the bark of a tree, Peruvian bark. They speculated at the time that it worked because it was astringent. And he was a smart man, and he said, well, there's lots of things that are astringent that don't help with malaria. So he had this idea of like cures like. So what he did was he gave himself a mega dose of quinine, and he tested himself to see what was happening. And sure enough, he got the symptoms of similar to malaria, which is intermittent fever, and there's several other things that he got that were very similar to the symptoms of malaria. So then he speculated it was like cures like. So then he goes on a crazy jag, and he's starts testing everything on himself. Everything that these things cause, they can cure. So part of the problem was him and his little group of acolytes and doctors that were following him and his family members, they were all kind of getting a little bit poisoned and getting sick for 2 days in order to test this out. So the next there's a lot of principles of homeopathy, maybe about 5 of them, but I'm just going to talk about law of similars and this other one, which is the law of the minimum dose. And the law of minimum dose, which really is the special thing about homeopathy, is that homeopathic remedies are very, very minute to the point where they don't have any of the original substance left in them. So what he found was, well, let's reduce this mega doses that I'm getting and see if we can get the same effect. And he found that actually, conversely to logic, the more light he went on the dose, the better the outcome was actually. Remedies. Remedies are made from animal, plant, mineral, generally those 3 categories. A lot of people think homeopathy is like herbs, but that's part of it, but we have these other things too. And there are a couple of other categories, and another one that we're going to talk about tonight is something called a nosode. And a nosode is a remedy made from disease material. Okay, so you can make a remedy that's basically out of measles or mumps or chickenpox. You can the flu, influenza, and what you can buy at the store. Okay. As I mentioned, how these remedies are made. So they're very diluted and potentized. There's two special things about them. You start with your mother tincture there on the left, would it be like your arnica and alcohol or something, your arnica tincture. And you just take one drop of that and you put it into 99 parts of water or ethanol. And now that's considered 1C, and that's 1 to 100, okay? Now, and then you take one drop of that, okay, there's an intermittent step. You shake it, okay, and it potentizes the medicine. So it increases it. So it's like you're making it dilute, but at the same time you're increasing it. So then you take one drop of that, put it in 99 drops. Now you're up to 2C. And then you keep going, 3C. But you see, by the time we get to 3C, you're at, exponential 1 to 1,000,000 dilution from the original. Okay? So it's extremely dilute. And I say that because I want you guys to understand that these are extremely safe. If you're taking a homeopathic remedy that's made from a disease material, there is no chance that you can get the disease from it. So it's a little different from vaccines in that way. Okay, so our remedies, 3C would be considered very low. Our potencies start up maybe 6, 12C. Something magical happens at 12C. And it's this guy.
Wow.
He was around the same time as Hahnemann, and he came up with a mathematical formula where you can understand when something is dissolved to the point where it doesn't exist anymore. It's called Avogadro's number. And it happens around 12C in homeopathy terminology. When you do that 12 times, that's around the time where there's literally none of the original substance left. So what is left? Frequency, vibration, energy. Okay. So these are what homeopathic remedies are. So I really wanted to give you a quick overview of what homeopathic remedies are. Okay, so now let's tell another story about Hahnemann. How did homeoprophylaxis start? So in 1798, he was treating a family. He had a large family. Everybody had large families back then. It was about 7 kids. And I think he was treating 3 of them for what would be a rash. They were taking belladonna, which is a plant, and they were taking it homeopathically, and it was helping them with their rash. However, scarlet fever was epidemic at that time, and it would just sweep through town to town. And you could know it's coming because, it's in the next town over, it's coming to our town. So it came to this town, and the 4 children that weren't being treated with the belladonna all got sick. And the children that didn't get sick were the ones he was treating with belladonna for the rash. And so he's, being a smart guy, speculated, well, is there something about the belladonna that's helping to prevent it? So he did some research and he did some experimentation. He found that belladonna's symptoms were very similar to that of scarlet fever. So he had this light bulb moment and he was like, maybe homeopathy can work preventatively. So, as legend has it, he went to the next town over where it hadn't gotten there yet, and he distributed belladonna to all the children. And guess what happened? It skipped over the town.
Wow.
So that was the beginning of homeoprophylaxis. And it's been around for over 200 years, and you can see that, the mainstream medical society has really embraced it. Not. Now, there's some things about HP, with homeoprophylaxis, we call it HP for short, that I want you to understand. It mimics nature. In nature, you get one disease at a time, right? You don't get measles, mumps, and rubella all at the same time, do you? No. You get them one at a time. We give HP remedies one at a time. It's taken orally through the mucous membrane. How does disease enter our body? It enters our body through mucous membranes. That's how we get sick. We inhale something, we eat something, it comes in through mucous membranes. So conventional immunizations, they bypass that. It goes to the bloodstream. That's not how nature provides disease to us. Also, no foreign materials, excipients, mediums, and adjuvants. Immunity begins in the mucous membrane, not in the bloodstream. Vaccines are different. Multiple diseases given at one time. It is filled with the mediums, excipients, and preservatives. Given directly into the bloodstream, bypassing innate immunity. Something really happens in your mucus, your mucosa, it's not just like a fancy thing. It's part of the immune system. So the immune system is already responding. The immune system has a whole list of tools, which we're going to talk about. What is immunity and how does HP work? We're going to talk a little bit about immunity. There's two main sides to the immune system. I'm not a scientist and I'm not an immunologist, but just bear with me. This is just a very basic overview of how the immune system works. You have Th1 and Th2. They have a couple of different names. The Th1 is also called cell-mediated immunity or innate immunity, and this is where HP works. This is where it starts in your mucosa. The second part of our immune system happens later, and it's the part that produces antibodies, which is really the big focus of conventional immunizations. They're both important. It's not like one is better or more important than the other. It's a whole system. The immune system's got a lot of tools. This is just a definition from Wikipedia, and this here is bold-faced. You could see all these crazy tools that they have in their kit, and I just listed them here. T lymphocytes, cytokines, natural killer cells, and macrophages. All this happens before you get to the Th2 side. So these are all really important things where HP works on this side of the immune system. Okay, and the Th2 responds to the bacterial invasion. If things get beyond where it's like nothing's working, then you build up the antibodies. You get sick, you expel it. You have to give the fever, you burn it off, but then you get those antibodies going so that you'll recognize it in the future. When you overemphasize the Th2 side of the immune system, we see allergy, asthma, and heightened allergic reaction because we're overpriming that. So immunity is more than just antibody production. And then my teacher, who started this company and who taught me homeoprophylaxis, used to say, antibody production is not the gold standard of immunity. And we're going to actually hear a word from her about this.
The distinction between homeoprophylaxis and vaccines, because they start from the same premise, they start from using the disease product, is a number of things. One, attenuation. And attenuation means to weaken. So vaccines are attenuated to a certain point, but there's still a pathogen present. Homeoprophylaxis is attenuated until there are no molecules of the original substance at all. So you've rendered it an energetic frequency. So it's just like downloading information from the universe. You're downloading information instead of introducing something that's material. Another difference is the route of introduction. Vaccines are introduced with a needle, so they're injected directly into the system. Mother Nature does not impart disease in that fashion. Mother Nature gives disease through mucous membrane. We breathe something in, we eat something, and homeoprophylaxis is on a pellet that's put in the mouth so that it's being introduced to the mucous membrane. Another difference is the additives that are in vaccines. Vaccines are grown on mediums. Frequently, they're animal mediums, monkeys' kidneys. They have casein, they have even on human diploid tissue, on aborted fetal tissue. And those tissues of other life forms carry viruses and things that are unknown. So you are taking that into your system, it's becoming part of your DNA. If you get a vaccine that's been grown on a monkey kidney, then that DNA is becoming part of your system. Also, there are different excipients, there's preservatives, there's antibiotics, and there's adjuvants in vaccines. And adjuvants are designed to boost the response to the vaccine so that it will create antibodies. And homeoprophylaxis has none of these because homeoprophylaxis doesn't aim to just increase antibodies. It's addressing the immune system in a balanced way, so that it's addressing both innate and adaptive arms of the immune system, giving overall long-term health benefits.
All right, so yeah, when she says innate and adaptive arms, that means the Th1, Th2 side, as I discussed. This just shows sort of a graph of how many, how much more vaccines have gone up since our parents' generation in the 50s, maybe your grandparents' generation. When I was a kid in the 80s, and then nowadays, these exclude COVID and flu, which they're now recommending for like very young. So, this could be even, I think it was up to 39 by 18 months. So that's 18, not 18 years, because 18 years, it's over 70. 18 months.
Thank you for pointing that out.
Yeah.
because I thought the number was 72, but that's 18 years.
That's 18 years, yeah.
Wow.
Within the first 18 months, yeah. I love this slide because when you think about disease prevention, I mean, like, what's driving most of it? Fear. And they're preying on that with us. So these diseases, I'm not going to sit here and say that they're not dangerous or they're not scary. They can be. We happen to live in a developed country where we have really good sanitation. We have, good health. We have good nutrition if you're paying attention. So a lot of these fears about these diseases are just not an issue for us, and just in general, where should we be coming from all the time with our decisions? We should be coming from love. And then according to the APA, safe amounts of aluminum in drinking water is 50 micrograms to 200 micrograms per liter. Sounds like a lot to me. I would say there's really no amount of safe aluminum in your water, but in 12 months of recommended vaccines, 5,150 micrograms of aluminum that we're injecting into babies. Homeoprophylaxis, used safely since 1798, 99. Okay, so here's just a list of some of the historical things that were being used. Scarlet fever, for a good 40 years, it was an epidemic throughout Germany. And they would use the belladonna, smallpox, all the way up until 1930s. You could just see it was used a lot throughout the world. These are historical uses. This next slide is really interesting because there are countries and governments that are using it nowadays. Cuba in 2007, India in 1999 to 2004. And I am going to go over some of these studies, okay? So I just wanted to show that it is modern usage and that governments around the world are using this. In this country, it's kind of like unheard of to think that, but other governments are really into this because it's very cost effective. You know how much it costs to produce these little pellets? Like pennies, So you'll see in the one with India, they gave HP to 20 million people. So the first case study is the Cuba. Leptospirosis is a disease that is, starts in water, and they had like a hurricane, and so they knew there was going to be a leptospirosis outbreak. And it's a bacterial blood infection. It's endemic to tropical areas, and it's spread by rodents. There is up to a 10% mortality rate. They had an institute called the Finlay Institute. I think they believe they still have it in Cuba. The Finlay Institute was doing HP interventions throughout the country. So they did the interventions in late 2007. 2.3 million people were given HP. These stats are a little bit better seen here. So you can see in 2007, this is when they started it. And this is what they expected the following year, this many cases. But the cases went down, and then the following year it went down here. And this was also what was expected. Okay. Now, with the leptospirosis studies, the HP is called Nozalep, which is, I think, an interesting name. They give it like a nice medical name. Sounds official. And they did a little test. They injected leptospirosis without any intervention into rats. 100% fatality rate if you inject it directly into them. They did the same thing with these rats, these other rats that had been treated with Nozalep, 80% survival rate. Now, here's the interesting thing here. 0% produced antibodies. So there's something happening in our immune system that can be cause for us to get immunity without producing antibodies. Okay, so HP activates cell-mediated immunity rather than antibody production. Okay, and then here's the India one. He's a medical officer with the government, and he's just going to talk a little bit about what they do in India.
I'm a homeopathic medical officer in the Department of Homeopathy. In India, we have Ayush Ministry. Ayush, which includes Ayurveda, Unani, Siddha, Yoga, and Naturopathy. So it becomes Ayush. In that, H stands for homeopathy. So the government is providing a huge amount for the popularity of homeopathy, the practice of homeopathy, and through government homeopathic dispensaries, we have different categories of dispensaries. Free treatment is provided, not only treatment, even prophylactic treatment is provided, and it is one of the policies of the government, just like the way they respect vaccination of modern medicine. Whenever there is a threat of epidemic, there will be immediately the team will be going there, and they will study the diagnosed cases, and once it is diagnosed, the remedy will be selected using the repertorization, and that remedy will be distributed free of cost through the government dispensaries. Also, we take help from the NGOs, even private homeopathic doctors organizations. They also support us. So free medicines will be given to the public. That's what we do.
So in India, they did this intervention with Japanese encephalitis. And in the Andhra Pradesh region, they gave 20 million people HP. Japanese encephalitis is a infection transmitted by mosquitoes, and it can be quite deadly, if I'm not mistaken. So here were all the cases, including 1,500 deaths from 1993 to 1999. Once they started the HP intervention, you could see the drastic fall here.
Wow.
And within a few years, down to nothing. Those are like big epidemic things. This guy is Isaac Golden. He's from Australia, and he is basically a homeopath who developed the childhood program that we use. Starting in 1985 to 2004, he did a 20-year study on these 2,342 children. Basically, they used homeoprophylaxis as their alternative for immunity. He sent out these questionnaires from 1999 to 2004. He was assessing the health. For the one thing was that it showed that it was 90% effective with preventing the illnesses that it was supposed to. Now, no disease prevention is 100% effective. Also, that they are free of side effects and non-toxic. Not one person had any damage or a side effect from HP. This is really interesting. So these asthma, eczema, and allergies I listed here. What they showed for asthma was HP was 15 times safer than immunizations, meaning that there was 15 times less asthma in the people who did HP than the people who were immunized. And you might expect that if you're of a certain mindset. But it was also 6 times safer than people who did nothing, okay? So same thing with eczema, 7.4 times safer than immunizations, but 2.8 times safer than doing nothing. Those are people that didn't get immunizations, conventional immunizations. And then the same thing with allergies, 5 times safer than immunizations, 2 times safer than no method. What they found was that HP boosts the immune system to create more robust health in the long run.
Without this damaging side effects.
Without any damaging side effects, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. For a long time, I really thought, man, we just need to do nothing,
Yeah.
But
Well, it's better to do nothing.
it is better to do nothing, but there's something even better than doing nothing. So here he is just giving a little talk about what he does.
I studied homeopathy, and to my amazement, I found that homeopathy actually offered something as an option to orthodox vaccination. In other words, a form of immunisation. We call it now homeoprophylaxis. And that's when I really decided to make that my main focus in clinic. So I started practicing in 1984, and by 1985 I designed a program to be used by Australian parents, because of course I'm in Australia, as an option for them instead of the orthodox vaccination program. And of course things have developed since then.
All right, and we have a couple testimonials from parents.
We didn't like the reaction that Asher, our eldest, who was born prematurely, was having to conventional vaccines. So we did several of them and then we stopped. And I thought, well, what do we do? I know I can't continue because we don't like seeing the response he was getting. But we knew we had to do something because we felt responsible as like a collective whole that we should be doing something.
I like the idea that there was a full program. It was a full system. And that we could go from start to finish with one thing, and we're still protecting our children and doing the things that we feel necessary too, right? Not just not doing anything. I don't know that I was very, I had my doubts at first, maybe a little bit as well.
A little bit.
I like that because that's often happens in couples where the man is not totally on board.
her health has been amazing. I think she got a cold once for a couple of days. She's had a diaper rash, and that's it. No ear infections, nothing. She's ridiculously healthy. Everybody that meets her actually comments on how alert she is, and that's always stuck out to me because I don't expect a baby to not be alert, but I attribute it to her health, and I'm very happy and very thankful for that. I would absolutely recommend HP to other parents. I think that using a safe and effective way to protect your child is the best way to go, and vaccines they're just too risky. I would never encourage anybody to go that route versus HP when there's a safer, more effective way with 0 side effects. Simple.
Some of our program offerings, so the foundational program would be like, something that, I do with my son, and where you do like a whole, there's 16 remedies and 8 different diseases included in that. Okay. And then, but I will also have programs for teens, college, if, it's a little smaller program. By the time they're that age, they don't need as much if you're just starting. Travel, people going to tropical areas, we do programs for that. Custom, sometimes grandparents, like to try and they want to be like, what can I do? And be around, sometimes newborn parents are like, you need to do this, you need to do that. So we can offer them something. And then there's the seasonal, which I forgot to bring, which is influenzainum, the pneumonia, and then the summer one for ticks. And you can schedule a free 15-minute appointment with me. That's on our website. And also my colleague, Courtney, she offers them too.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
of course.
You made it worth it.